We are the Ministry of the Real Truth. Today we're going to listen to Joe Kirby and his claims of his revelations on the book of Revelations. The Revelations of Joe Kirby. He seems like a genuine, down-to-earth, everyday Joe, as he claims, so we are not intending to degrade him in any way or label him as a false teacher, preacher, etc. For we were just genuinely interested in exactly what he had to say, as he makes scripture extremely interesting and his topics are very exciting. He adds humour in the appropriate places, and we like that. He begins his video with a question.
Who is the Antichrist? Well, I believe there are three possible candidates, and once I've presented all the evidence before you, I'm going to tell you which of these I believe the Antichrist really is. Number one, Caesar Nero. Now this is going to blow you away. The Bible says, "Here is the mind which has wisdom." The seven heads are the seven mountains on which the woman sits.
So he's basically saying, John is saying, he who has intelligence, he who has a brain, should be able to figure this out.
There are also seven kings. 5 have fallen. One is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast...
Okay, so he's saying that Caesar Nero is always said to be the Antichrist. So we, looking back on our notes on Tacitus' book of Annals, and his biographical note, we are going to clear that up. Who exactly was this Caesar Nero? What was he like, and what did he do history-wise? Nero, Roman Emperor, born 37, died 68 AD. Apparently executed or something like that. He was in prison. This Joe will tell you further on in the video. Claudius Caesar Drusus Germanicus, originally Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, Roman Emperor 54 to 68 AD. Okay. Biographical note by Tacitus. The little that is known about the life of Tacitus is provided by allusions in his own writings and the letters addressed to him by his intimate friend Pliny the Younger. When Tacitus began his history, somewhere about his 45th year, he related his life to the empire that was to be the burden of his narrative. I myself knew nothing of Galba, of Otho, or of Vitellius, either from benefits or from injuries. I would not deny that my elevation was begun by Vespasian, augmented by Titus, and still further advanced by Domitian. I have reserved as an employment for my old age, should my life be long enough, a subject at once more fruitful and less anxious in the reign of the divine Nerva and the empire of Trajan, enjoying the rare happiness of times when we may think what we please and express what we think, and so forth. Okay, so we're going to go and look at Nero. What did Nero say? Is he supposed to be like the wickedest man on earth according to this Joe Kirby? What does Tacitus have to say on that particular person? Tacitus wrote of... Here we go up a bit further. Tacitus was at the height of his powers, and a consulship was due him in normal course of advancement. Yet unless he would risk his life, he could not abandon his office, seek advancement, or absent himself. The orator, or Tacitus, chose silence, broken only when Domitian demanded flattery as an accompaniment to his acts of terror. The emperor enforced full attendance in the Senate when honourable men were being judicially murdered. So he was a murderer, he's killing them all, so that he could see plainly whether you have any affection for me. It's for Domitian, right? Tacitus wrote of this experience. Even Nero, Caesar Nero, turned his eyes away and did not gaze upon the atrocities which he ordered. With Domitian it was the chief part of our miseries to see and to be seen, to know that our sighs were being recorded. The assassination of Domitian in 96 brought unexpected release from this tyranny, which Tacitus said left some of the living no more than survivors of themselves. There can be no doubt of the effect upon him. We witnessed the extreme of servitude when the informer robbed us of the interchange of speech and hearing. We should have lost memory as well as voice, had it been as easy to forget as to keep silence. That he vowed to maintain memory during that period of unnatural silence seems probable, since the opening pages of his Life of Agricola, 98, refers to his histories as having been begun shortly after the death of Domitian. It would hold, he said, the memory of past servitude, and then give testimony to present happiness. As he worked on his book and later on the Annals, he extended his memory past the emperors of his childhood, the four who succeeded one after another, with 14 months after the death of Nero to the death of Augustus, Roman emperors. Tacitus was not out of public office during the rule of Nerva and Trajan, and so forth. It is not known whether he survived the Emperor Trajan. He must have been nasty too. In whose reign his histories were brought out, he did not fulfill his intention of celebrating. This page is ripped. Is it Nero? It might be Nero, something else. Oh, it's Nerva, Trajan, and happiness of their time, etc. So, this Domitian was more evil than Nero himself. Okay. So that's the incorrect statement there by Joe Kirby, saying that he was the most evil man that walked the earth. Okay. There's other men just as evil as he was walking the earth. Okay. Going to continue with this video.
That was and is not, is himself also the eighth, and is of the seven, and is going to perdition. So, let's break this down.
So what does perdition mean? It's going to his undoing. Right. He's going to go to his punishment. Right. So we're going to have a look at, what was it, Revelations 17:11? In the original Galilean Aramaic, to see if it's similar or completely different to what this Joe is reading from the New King James Version, which has supposed theories that it's a complete rewrite and it's corrupt and all this sort of stuff, according to these different evangelists. 17:11. Let's have a look to see what that says in the original Galilean Aramaic. And the demon who was going to be or was not going to be, and this one the 8, but comes from the 7 and is a destroyer. And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings, those people who have not yet been crowned. So it's actually 10. Except authority as kings is given them for 1 hour with that demon. Okay, what is the demon in the ancient Galilean Aramaic? It's anti-man, it's carnivorous beast, it's a hater of man. So let's have a look at those footnotes for Revelation 17. No, let's go 9. This is where the mind that has wisdom or intelligence reveals itself or manifests itself. These 7 heads are 7 mountains over which that woman sits, and the kings are 7, 5 of which have fallen. One of them is, and the last one is yet to come. And when he comes, he will have little desire to rule. He won't want to be king. And the demon who is going to be and was not going to be, and this one is the 8th, but comes from the 7th and is the destroyer. And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings, those people who have not yet been crowned, except authority as kings is given to them for 1 hour with that demon. They only have one desire, and their power and authority they give to that demon. These will fight with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall be victorious over them, and he is the Lord of Lords and King of Kings. Yes, so it looks like there's 10 horns, 10 kings, seven heads, 7 kings, 5 of which have fallen, etc. One of them is the last one is yet to come. When he comes, he will have a little desire to rule. So let's have a look at the footnotes there for that. 17:10, literal Aramaic idiomatic expression. Little blessed is he to hold them together. He's called the oblivionator. Okay. 17:12. Okay. 1711, literal Aramaic idiom and Blivinator. All these people are going to worship him by the looks of it. Literal Aramaic idiom, placed or set up. He's setting up this nation that's going to attack the looks of it. Literal Aramaic idiom set. The Soviet Union and its satellite states, when it was the USSR, found it. This was actually translated and printed, published about 2015. So since then it's no longer the USSR, it's just the Soviet Union or something like that. Let's have a look at that again. Okay, because further down, these will fight with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall be victorious over them. That's Jesus the Christ, right? When he returns. For he is the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings, and those with him are the called and the chosen and the faithful. And he told me, this angel speaking to John, the Revelator, the waters that you saw where that prostitute sits, this is a false religion, etc., with a false prophet. They are the nations and peoples and motherlands and tongues. That's all the people of the nations, right? They've got different languages, etc. And the 10 nations that you saw, and that demon, that anti-man, that man-hater, that carnivorous beast, they hate that prostitute, or that false church, right? That false church or religion. And they will lay her to waste and leave her naked, and they will eat her flesh and set her aflame. Right, they rob over everything she's got, right, and set her on fire. For Allah, or God, has put it into their hearts to do His will only, and give the kingship to that demon, until these words of Allah, or God, are fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is that great city which rules the kings of the world. Okay, they all partake of her goods, etc., etc. They suck up to her. So what does that footnote say about that? 1718. World empire, literal Aramaic idiomatic figure of speech, has kingship upon, approximately present day at this point of the vision. Approximately present day at this point of the vision. So it's after 2015, when the supposed Soviet Union and its satellite states collapsed, because this again was translated and published in 2015 by Victor N. Alexander. And this is from the Aramaic New Testament, or the Cyprus New Testament, translated by Victor N. Alexander, a native-born Aramaic speaker, translator from Bet Narain. Okay, so we're going to go back to this video. Oh, actually, we're going to have a look at what it says in the King James Version, Revelation 17:11. Okay, because this is an Americanized Bible version, and this is probably what this Joe Kirby is also getting his translations from. But this is a really old King James Version, so it should be all good. 17:11. Okay, it says, go from 9. And here is the mind which hath wisdom, or intelligence. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And that's supposed to be Rome. Okay. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goes forth into perdition, unrighteousness, wickedness, right? And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto that beast. So it's not necessarily a demon or dragon, etc. That's symbolic for a nation who is powered by a demon that is anti-man, that hates man, that wants to destroy them, etc. Okay, and many people have these ideas. It's AI, it's this, it's that. You have to do the research and pinpoint exactly which one it is before you start making claims of fact, right?
John was given a revelation by God, and he saw 7 kings, 7 rulers who would sit on the 7 mountains, or the 7 hills in other translations. Now, guess how many hills there are in Rome? There's 7. So who are these 7 kings? Well, at the time that John was writing Revelation, there had been 7 emperors of Rome. So who were these emperors? Well, there was Julius Caesar, there was Caesar Augustus, there was Tiberius, there was Caligula, Claudius, Caesar Nero, and there was Domitian. And what does John say will happen to these 7 kings? Well, he says 5 of them have fallen, meaning 5 will die unnaturally. One is, so at the time that John is writing this, there is one who is still alive, and one we can only conclude died naturally. And then it says there is one out of the original 7 will come back, and he will be the 8th, who is going to be the beast, which is another name for the Antichrist. Now, here's where it gets very crazy. The first emperor of Rome, Julius Caesar, was killed. The second emperor,
He was stabbed by his own people.
Caesar Augustus, died in old age naturally. The third emperor of Rome, Tiberius, was poisoned. The fourth...
Okay, yeah, maybe he was poisoned according to the histories, but we've done research and read that he actually stepped down from his post, and somewhere along the way he started to profess that Jesus Christ was true, etc., etc. You'd have to do more research on that to verify that he actually started to promote that Christ was real, etc., etc. And also that he tried to get back his emperorship, but he was overruled by the next Caesar, right? That sat in his replacement. It was along those lines. There is a movie we recommend, but then again we don't recommend it because it was by Bob Guccione of Penthouse fame. But it has been hailed. It's quite sordid, sexually pornographic. Okay, it's just that that's supposedly a depiction of what the Romans were actually like, the closest depiction of what they were really like, from Caligula, Tiberius, etc. I don't think you can get a clean version. Maybe you can read about it, you know, if you don't like the idea of watching something sordid like that. It was just a something, okay, that was the closest to what these Romans were actually like, okay, according to historians, etc., because it depicts it exactly how it was. If you took out all those scenes, cut out all those scenes, we found a clean version as we stated, then yeah. What's his name? Malcolm McDowell, was it? He played Caligula really, really well. He's from The Clockwork Orange. Okay, we're just suggesting it. We're not really recommending it, but that's up to you. But if you want to fully understand what the Romans were like, we suggest, yeah, we'll take back recommend. We'll suggest that you watch it. You can watch it with a friend, you know, say he gets strayed or swayed or whatever. You don't fall victim to temptation or something, you know. There's always that option. But again, we drop the recommended and we say suggest. We suggest, if you wanted to know what the Romans, the Caesars, etc., why the empire fell to bits, okay, besides being attacked by barbarians, the Huns, etc., etc., on different fronts, and from their own men rebelling, etc., etc., then we suggest that you read about that or take a look at that. Okay, it's not for the weak or the faint-hearted, but it's very close to what they were originally like. Okay, so yeah, this one's murdered, this one dies in old age. Tiberius supposedly is poisoned, and he's replaced at the time probably by Somebody else will have a look.
Caligula was stabbed to death.
Can we go back a bit?
Augustus died in old age naturally. The third
Augustus.
emperor of Rome, Tiberius, was poisoned. The fourth, Caligula, was stabbed to death.
So this guy was it Caesar Augustus? Caesar Augustus, that was before Christ was born, and then Tiberius was reigning, and then the next one.
The fifth, Claudius, was also poisoned.
Okay.
And then
Christ came between these two, right?
Number 6, the sixth emperor of Rome, Caesar Nero, committed at age 31, awaiting the death sentence in jail. And then number 7, Domitian, was alive when John was writing Revelation. Isn't that interesting?
So, being the cruelest of all, according to Tacitus' annals. Even Nero, so disgusted by his atrocities that he's doing to his own people, etc., that he had to turn his head in shame. He couldn't bear to look or hear about it, right?
Interesting. Isn't that very interesting? Here we have 5 emperors who have fallen. One who's still alive right now, and one who died naturally. But the prophecy which John wrote down was this: one out of the original 7, who is not, who is already dead, would come back, and he would be the Antichrist, the beast. So where did I get Nero from? Well, in the book of Acts, we actually read that the Apostle Paul appealed to a Caesar. Who was this Caesar? It was Caesar Nero. And you know the Apostle Paul as well as I do. What was his one passion in life? He had to preach the gospel. Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel, Paul said. And I believe that when the Apostle Paul met Caesar Nero, he would have preached Christ, the cross, and the risen Saviour. And one theory is this: Caesar Nero, for a period of time, was a very successful ruler. And then his mind sort of unhinged. He went insane. And some people believe that after he met the Apostle Paul, that was the thing that sent him insane. After he rejected the gospel, something spiritual happened to his soul, and it sent him on the wrong tracks of life. But whether you agree with that theory or not, there's one thing you've got to admit to me, and it's this: Nero was one of the most evil men who ever walked on the face of this earth, and he did some very antichrist kind of thing.
But as we explained, Domitian was worse. That's why in the book of Tacitus, Nero had to turn his head and look the other way. He just couldn't handle it. He was so appalled by it. Didn't want to hear about it. Didn't want to read about it.
You know, he had his own wife murdered. In fact, 2 of his wives murdered, and his own mother murdered. Nero was obsessed with his popularity. He was popular at the time. People loved him, and he loved Greek tradition, this idea that you can be your own god and you're worshipped. Did you know this? Nero was the forerunner to persecuting Christians. He had Christians torn to pieces by dogs. They were burnt alive. Some of them were even crucified, like our Savior.
Yeah, read Fox's Book of Martyrs, it's all there. And in the histories. So, we've covered most of what Joe had to say. We'll continue, or has to say.
Saviour and Nero had relations, did wicked things that are too shameful for me to speak about publicly. But perhaps most suspect of all is this: in the Hebrew language, every single letter is given a number, and if you add up the numbers of Nero's name, guess what number it adds up to?
This is where people get silly.
666. The mark of the beast.
Which in numerology turns out to be 18.
If you add up the letters
or
of
9.
Barney the dinosaur, that also equals 666. And also, the book of Revelation was written in Greek, not Hebrew. But let's not forget that Hebrew...
Okay, here he says it was all written in Greek, not Hebrew. That's wrong. He's in error there, because through our own personal study and people coming at us with the same comments, it was all in Greek, not Hebrew or Aramaic, or it was all in Hebrew, not Aramaic, etc., etc. We did our personal research and we found that it's written, and it's fact, established fact, that the Aramaic, or the old Tav Asherah, was actually the one that created the Hebrew. We have done a video on the Hebrew and the language, and revealed to people was never a language. It was a movement of people, all of Abraham's family, right? Arpachshad was it the brother of the older brother of Shem. Japheth had a son, and his name was Arpachshad, and then he was considered called the father of the Hebrews, and then he had a son called Heber in your Americanized modern English versions, Heber, who led these people along with Abraham to the promised land, the land of Canaan, promised to Moses by God. We've already covered a video on that, and these people were known as Awer, A-W-E-R, and that means those who crossed over, those who made a passage, because Arpachshad was considered the father of the children of passage, which is the Hebrews. Okay, and then Heber and his descendants and Abraham and his family, etc., migrated across lands and ended up in the land of Canaan, which today is modern Israel. But it was occupied by Hittites, Jebusites, Perizzites, etc., who had their pagan religion, their pagan god called El. Okay, go and Google El, and you'll see the information about that. It was Canaanite. This supposed Hebrew of today, modern Israeli Hebrew, is a revised version from the 19th century. It was revised in the 19th century, and its origins are Canaanite, Ugaritic. Okay, so we're thinking, well, that cool. Hebrew is just a mask for, rather than saying, oh, it's from this ancient paganite Canaanites, right? So God eventually, probably through Abraham, etc., has seen this, gets rid of these pagans, but they did adopt and adapt their religion, their culture, their language, their gods, i.e. El, okay, and so forth, because the original name in the Tav Asheret or the Aramaic is El, not El. It's the article the, okay, hence the name the God or the gods, Elohim. Okay, you could say you could say God or gods. Okay, it means God or gods. Okay, but obviously there's more than one God. If you say gods, it's a pantheon of gods, isn't it? So you would just say, the ancient, etc., who were gods of so forth and so forth. You would say the correct English sentence would be to add the article the, wouldn't it? They were the gods of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Perizzites, whoever, right? Okay, it's a indication, okay, that there's one or more particular gods, right? There's the God, singular, and then there's the gods, okay, plural or more. Okay, and apparently it was scripted wrong by these Hebrews and so forth, and they started to call their God El or Elohim. We've already covered that in other videos and provided the information, the sources, the links to the sources, the established facts, the evidence that proved itself evident, etc., to these people who want to come at us and argue, no, it means this, it means that. Right, it means this, it means that, all that sort of stuff. So we could understand, okay, if you're a fluent or native born Hebrew speaker, etc., you would use Hakadesh, etc., etc. Would that not also be the? Okay, which would be the article the in the English. Okay, it's not talking about it being the in the Aramaic or the in the Hebrew, right? Okay, it's we need to find it, translate that word, a particular words from that particular language into the English, I guess. Okay, let's continue with Joe.
Hebrew was the original language of God's people, the people of Israel. So, over to you. Do you think that Caesar Nero...
See, it's not the original because, as we said, it was the Tav Asheret or the Aramaic, which helped to create the Hebrew. But there was the Hebrew, the Aramaic Hebrew. The Hebrew spoken in the temple for things holy, and the Aramaic used outside for everything else. They were sister languages. They had the same words, same meaning, until somebody like the Masoretes added the vowels, which not only changed the structure but also of the language, but also the words. So later on, with the vowels they added, you had the same words in the Aramaic, or similar words in the Aramaic, but in the Hebrew they had different meanings. Like our word in the Hebrew, meaning those who crossed over, those who made a journey or a passage, that's the same as it is in the ancient Aramaic. Okay, in the original ancient, very old, long dead Tav Asheret. We're not talking about the modern Syriac or the modern Aramaic or Galilean Aramaic or modern Greek or Hebrew. Okay, this is a long dead language that through a certain method was used to translate the original Old Testament manuscripts in the sacred scribal language of God, the Lishana Atika Sapra, or the Lishana Atika of the Tav Asheret. That's why we use the reference very old, because it's gone by the way of the dinosaurs. Nobody speaks, writes it, or speaks it anymore, i.e. because it's a long, dead, old language. The same way they don't speak Norse, Old Germanic, Old Latin, Old English, etc.
Is the Antichrist? Well, in a moment's time, I'm going to tell you who I believe the Antichrist really is. Another name for the Antichrist is Son of Destruction, and if there's one man who brought utter destruction to earth, it was Adolf Hitler. The Bible says, he shall speak pompous words against the Most High, shall persecute the...
So you would have to go and look at the history of Adolf Hitler and verify exactly where, be it in Mein Kampf or elsewhere, it's got to come from the horse's mouth, right, where he starts blaspheming God. Because apparently he, according to the histories, German historians, etc., that got flack for it, was trying to restore or keep the religion of Jesus Christ, because he was Roman Catholic, etc. Apparently he might have been into the occult on the side, all that sort of stuff, but he was a good old Roman Catholic at heart apparently, and he wanted to keep or restore and keep the Christianity, all about Jesus Christ, the Christ-related religion, intact. He wanted to get rid of communism because he felt that was a plague, and the people that he supposedly said started it all and caused all the problems. He did say to the president at the time, maybe Eisenhower or someone like that, of America, let's join together, let's be allies, let's not fight each other and get rid of communism forever. But being pompous, this president said, no, you've got to show the world the might of the US war machine, all this sort of stuff. And plus, economy is boosted by war, so yeah, he wanted a war, etc., etc. These other people that were part of Germany at the time, because they were getting sorted out, ousted, etc., they didn't like that. And then from afar, their people didn't like that, so they banned their exports, imports to them, etc., etc. They'd already robbed them because they said, oh, you're a cause of World War One, pay us recompense, come in and take your money, and basically made everybody in Germany a pauper, right? And he didn't like that, so he stood up and he said, that's it, enough of this crap, right? And he spoke out up and against it, right? And he stopped certain things that were happening, and these are found in the scriptures, in the Galilean Aramaic originals, translated into the nearest English equivalent. There's a rabbi whose video keeps getting banned, taken down, who states the same thing. Okay, it's called the Warning to the Jews, etc. So we did a comparison between what he had to say and what the Galilean Aramaic scriptures said, and we got a copy strike. But we appealed against it because we said, how can it be that what they were declaring when that person is a rabbi talking about his own people and what they got up to in Germany in the 1920s and the 1930s. Okay, so let's carry on. You have to go and do the history and prove to us that this is what this Adolf did, that he blasphemed against God and the Holy Host, etc., etc.
Saints of the Most High, and intend to change times and law. Then the saints, shall be given into his hand for a time, and times, and half a time. What we know...
So, could that be in Daniel's time, right? It's not a futuristic event like it's going to happen soon, or it's happened and it's going to happen again. As they say, history repeats itself. Could it be talking about in Daniel's day coming at a later time, which was John's day, through the Romans, etc., through the Caesars, etc.? Okay. History can repeat itself, so maybe we can look forward to similar events happening again when this supposed Antichrist turns up on the scene. Apparently, these heads of these AI robots, etc., these ones that make these things, are basically waiting. We saw a video on it. People are waiting for this one particular person to turn up on the scene that's like highly intelligent, all this sort of stuff, and he will say, well, this is the kind of thing we want to take over the world, okay, to totally rule the world, to fulfill our mission, etc., etc. So maybe this is part of their plan, okay, because these AI robots, like this guy Joe says, are starting to get conscious, all this sort of stuff, and one day they'll become singular and take over the world and get rid of man and all that sort of stuff. Possibility. But it's people putting that information into the algorithms of those particular AI robots, etc. There is a lot of rubbish on YouTube which says, look at this sexy robot and she can do this and do that. It's just a list, a continual list of the robots that have been made and what they can do. It's totally off subject. Okay, so just be well aware of that. It's all clickbait.
About the Antichrist is he is going to slaughter many of God's people during the tribulation. So when...
This is what one of those emperors, possibly not Tiberius or what after that, Augustus was doing. We thought it might have been Tiberius because in the book of Revelations it says, I can't remember what verse it was, we've done a video on it, but this person came to power and he started blaspheming, talking a lot of nonsense against God, the Christ, his holy angels, all that dwells in the kingdom of heaven in his day. Apparently it's either Paul or the Christ, we're thinking it was Paul or maybe somebody else, another apostle, that said, as you know, the Antichrist is coming. In fact, he's already here. And then looking at the footnotes, we found that it said this guy spent so long blaspheming, talking nonsense in the time of Christ, during the days of Christ's ministry. So he was there when Christ was around, right? During his ministry. So this Antichrist was probably the first person, one of the first persons to declare, I am a God. I am descended from the God. We are the sons of God. Now worship us. Well, that sort of stuff, right? Yeah, so we thought it was Tiberius, but we then, doing the research, thought maybe it was Augustus. So we're still looking for that kind of information on him. Yeah, because we found that Tiberius wasn't such a bad character, according to the histories. If he, or maybe he was, and then he started to realise, hey, this Christ was actually real. And he started pushing it to an extent. He says a verse in this Galilean Aramaic, the footnotes would say during the time of Christ, the ministry of Christ. Just trying to find it. It might be Revelations 13. We'll have a look. Get the footnotes. Aha, here we go. We found it. Yeah, Revelation 13 in the Aramaic New Testament, translated by Victor and Alexander, a native-born Aramaic speaker, translated from Bet Narain, or Mesopotamia, Syria, who translated these original Galilean Aramaic manuscripts into the nearest English equivalent. Where's the footnotes here? Okay, footnotes 13:1, literal Aramaic idiom, inhumane creature or anti-man. That's Revelations 13:1. And the dragon, or the devil, the old serpent, right, stood on the sand of the sea. Okay, so he's in some country amongst the people, some nation amongst the people, and John saw that the demon, the anti-man, carnivorous beast, hater of man, rising out of the sea amongst those people, that has 10 horns and 7 heads, and on its heads the names of blasphemies. And that demon that John saw resembled a tiger, and his feet were like gold, and his mouth like the mouth of lions. And the dragon gave it his power and his throne and great authority. And one of its heads, as though cut and dying, and from under its own death pulled through, and the whole world was enthralled in the wake of that demon. And they worshipped the dragon, or the devil, since it gave, or that power from the devil, right? Since it gave authority to that demon, that spirit, right? Evil spirit. Who could do battle with him? So who could fight against Rome, right? If that's Rome, who could fight them and win? Because they're just too powerful, right? They were like a powerful as military, with their strategies, etc., etc. Who went and invaded, conquered, right? Often forcing people to accept their, or at a later date, their empirical religion. And he was given a mouth to utter abominations and blasphemies, and he was given authority to do so 42 months. And he opened his mouth to blaspheme against Allah, or God in Aramaic, God in English, Allah in Aramaic, God in English, to blaspheme against his name and his abode, and against those who dwell in heaven. And he was given authority over all generations and nations and tongues and peoples, and he was given authority to do battle with the saints and to defeat them. And they worshipped him, all of them who dwelled on earth, those whose name is not written in the book of life of the Lamb who was sacrificed from the foundations of the universe. And it says in the footnotes here, as we said, the first verse, 13:1, literal Aramaic idiom, inhumane creature or anti-man. And then this nation was cut to death. It was as if it was cut to death, but it came alive. Okay, it lived again. It pushed out from that. It re-emerged. And everybody was excited after that inhumane creature, this anti-man, and this king or Caesar on the throne at that time was talking a whole lot of nonsense, blasphemy, and that was during the ministry of Yeshua, or Jesus the Christ. And then all nations, all motherlands, all the peoples who spoke different languages were forced to worship, or to come under this particular empire and worship their kings as gods, or else, And yeah, they conquered everybody. They were victorious over them, even the saints. And so forth. Okay, in the mark of the beast, where was that? 13:15. And it was given to him to impart a spirit to the image. I will go back a bit better. And I saw another demon that rose from the earth, and he had 2 horns resembling those of a ram, and he spoke as a dragon. So it's this false religion with a false prophet. And all the powers of that first demon he performed before them, and he made the world and those who dwelt in it, the word that they knew, right, that they'd conquered, so that would worship that first demon, the first anti-man, that carnivorous beast, right? That nation. Carnivorous is when it eats up everything, right? It's ferocious. And those who dwell in, so that they would worship that first demon, the one who became healed from under its own death. And he performed grandiose signs, or grand signs, whereas even fire fell from the sky over the earth and before humanity, and he misleads those who dwell on the earth to be the slaves of the image of that demon, the one who has been struck by the sword and had lived. Okay, that's probably to do with that nation, right? And it was given to him to impart a spirit to the image, make it come alive, and to command that all those who do not worship the image of that demon to be killed. And he enslaved them all, the small and the famous and the rich and the poor and the children and the free slaves. Free and the slaves were to be given a mark on their right hands or between their eyes. This is that false prophet and that false religion. Okay, so there's something about them. They're giving you, right, so that no one could sell or buy except he who has a mark of that demon or the number of his name. In that era, here there is wisdom. Whoever has a mind or has a brain or intelligence should count or calculate the number of that demon, the anti-man, the man-hater. For it is the number of a human being, and its number is 666. So what it's basically saying is, this is the opposite to God, the Christ, etc. If God has 777, then this counterfeit has 666. Okay, it's of the man, it's of an animal nature. Okay, it's not of the spiritual nature or Christ. Okay, so he's talking about something that happens later, but it's not that far away from when John was living, right? Maybe it was something to do with Domitian, maybe it was something to do with somebody else. Okay. But it was definitely Roman in origin, by the looks of it. So all these of you are telling you, oh, it's the future, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Yeah, possibility, if that's the plan of the NWO, the Illuminati, whoever, that want to create something that will control all, get rid of all, if that's their plan. 50,000 or 50 million or whatever their supposed conspiracy number to remove from the earth is, so they can go back to nature and do all this stuff and have a certain amount of people on the planet who become their slaves, probably through the Noahidic laws and all this sort of stuff that they presented to Bush apparently when he was in, that people had the certificate, etc., to accept it, that they were under it. I'm a good Christian, but I signed this and I got this certificate, being in agreement with the Noahidic laws that they're going to put out, all this sort of stuff, right? But basically, that mark of the beast is a sign of an allegiance to a certain religion, okay, and their false prophet. It could be a sign that they use when you go to the church, you get a blessing, all that sort of stuff. Consecration, using water, those signs that we mentioned, all that sort of stuff. It's like it's a sign, a confirmation of your loyalty to that particular false religion. Okay, you have to come under that, and you obviously come under that one world power, that tyrant, etc. That last great tyrant, or else you can't work, you can't eat, you can't do this, you can't do that, unless you have some sort of certification or mark or whatever to verify that you've accepted this new world order, etc., etc. This is very interesting. If you like it, you want to know more, let us know in the comments below this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give us a like, tell us in your comments, what do you think? Hey, what's your opinion, etc., etc. And then go share this video with your family, friends and others, so they know the truth, the real truth, and nothing but that truth according to the original ancient, very old Galilean Aramaic scriptures, and the Old Testament manuscript scriptures of hand copied by scribes and monks in Ur around 800 BCE, which is now which was Odessa but now modern Turkey. And the original language is translated into the nearest English equivalent, like the books of Daniel and the New Testament, Matthew, Acts, etc., whatever Joe here has quoted. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, add your comments below, and share this video with all your family, friends and others.